Welcome to the bridge at the southern end of the main lake, where right in front of you is Kite Island. Believe it or not, this view was very different in the early 20th century. Back then it was just open pasture, a handful of non-native trees, and a few ponds to complete the picture.
Going back even further to the early 1900s, the land was leased by the Wellington Acclimatisation Society. Their big idea was to create a trout farm. The land around the hatchery was left largely undeveloped, as can be seen in this aerial photo. Then in 1949, the 48-acre site was acquired by the Masterton Trust Lands Trust. Later in the 1970s, the Trust proposed a 33-acre high-class residential suburb called Springvale, which also would include a picturesque lake. Work began in May 1977, digging out the swampy ground with the addition of a small island in the middle. Some boys from Marston Intermediate School rowed over to plant flax, toy and lilies. But as cost for the project rose, it was finally decided that Springvale was too expensive and was cancelled. In 1993 though, a bright new vision emerged to transform the land into a native forest reserve. One of the key players was Warwick Dean, together with other members of the Masterton South Rotary Club.
I could see a potential of bringing back native plants and then encouraging native birds to return to the area. And I then made it an approach to the Trust Lands Trust to see if it would be able to be returned to its native bush, like originally before the Europeans came.
An agreement with Masterton Trust Lands Trust was signed for what was then called the Hillcrest Reserve. Aided by community volunteers, the Masterton South Rotary Club then set to work alongside the Forest and Bird Society and heaps of local school children. First, non-native trees and invasive bushes were cut and cleared out. Holes were then dug by tractor and planting in the bare landscape was begun. Another major task was tackling the sorry state of the main lake. One man had a vision for how it could be transformed.
The island originally was just a low little mound, and it was a real mess. There was trees falling into the lake, there were trees from the island falling out. It wasn't a pretty sight.
So Merv and the volunteer team decided to drain the lake to improve the flow of water that flowed into the Kurupuni stream.
All this was mud down here, sort of semi-dry mud with trees coming down, and then Buchanan's came in with their big digger and we tidied everything up, pushed it all up onto the island and forming a much bigger island. We then filled in the cut in the embankment here and refilled the lake.
With the lake finished, Merv Kite then came up with another grand idea for enjoying the reserve.
I was determined that we were going to have tracks that meandered, so you couldn't really see far in front of you. You're always coming around a corner and there was always a different vista in front of you. And
to build the tracks, a local quarry company would donate several tons of riverbed stone each week for a group of local lads.
On the Saturday morning, the community service boys, who'd transgressed, would come down and they'd get on the wheelbarrows. Some of them were forestry boys, and there were some of them who were boy racers from town who had never lifted anything heavy in their life. So the forestry boys enjoyed it and the boy racers didn't.
Over the years, many groups and individuals have contributed their time and efforts. In particular, since 2003, a charitable group called Friends of Millennium Native Forest Reserve, under a QE2 covenant, has helped change a swampy grassland into a thriving and lush forest.
exceeded our expectations, it really has, and to see school groups coming through and people walking their dogs, and you see the fruition of all our work now. Well worth it, really is. You know, you feel as though you're leaving a legacy. Yeah.
At the next stop, you will discover in more detail the challenges, the achievements, and yes, also the setbacks in establishing a native forest from scratch. Enjoy your journey.